Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Roby and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about GameFi.
It's back, dude. It's GameFi season, apparently.
Yeah, we experienced the first season in 2021 with Axie Infinity.
Yeah, it was quite the earth shatterer of a concept, right?
Is that still considered the first season?
Yeah,
No.
for sure. That was the first explosion of the idea of tokenization in the context of a game, right? Which we appreciated because we grew up playing video games.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, I get it. It makes a lot of sense. It seems like an appropriate application for crypto, right?
Yeah, and Axie Infinity underpinned an entire country, the Philippines.
Yeah, so if you
At
guys,
least it felt like it.
yeah, which you might not understand what the hell we're talking about. So in case you missed last cycle, definitely there were whole documentaries about this because it was so shocking.
Yeah.
Where some little what was perceivably just like an innocent indie game in the beginning stages, which we were there to witness, like the very beginnings of it. You would just acquire two of these little puffball creatures, breed them to produce new variants with optimal properties and such.
Yeah, and you can breed them in a way where you can, if you desired a particular attribute, you can customize your breeding to do that.
Yeah, so this was really cool, right? Because this was showcasing NFTs and their dynamic ability, their useful functionality within a game itself, and then they had a token incentive loop called play to earn for this whole thing, right? So it was it's quite the showcase, masterpiece of the time of this is how we could utilize all the components of crypto, fungible and non-fungible, to essentially create a little microeconomy,
right?
In a sense, right? So while it was all kind of taking off, everybody was really excited about it. Millions of people were playing and earning.
Yeah.
But there were those very, those attempted to be loud voices, but really they were very silent amongst the masses.
They were sounding the alarm that it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, I was guys, this is one giant Ponzi, is what they said, right? Remember those days? And everybody was having such a good time. Dude, shut up.
Yeah.
Dude, shut up. Nothing's going to stop this. This is the new economy. Right?
Yeah. It certainly felt like a new economy because it seemed to make sense at the time, but...
I mean, yeah. So, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you perceive these things, those quiet alarm sounders were correct. This wasn't sustainable, and a lot of this stuff came to a screeching halt.
It's funny because when things were working, they were wrong, and then when things stopped working, they were right.
Correct. Yeah. So the result of this fallout is hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions, were invested into the Web3 gaming sectors.
That's true.
Now it's let's figure out how to improve these mechanisms, these game models for the next generation, the next era of GameFi. That's the whole umbrella terminology for all this, called GameFi.
Yeah.
Gaming finance, in case you couldn't figure that out. So here we are, right? 4 years later. What do you think, dude? What's the assessment? Have we gotten any closer to the next wave?
If I compare it to 2021, I don't see any new things.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things hitting the timeline that are pinging our awareness, right?
Yeah.
First one, BigCoin, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin.
Big with a G.
Yeah, which
it's Bitcoin but bigger.
That's right. That's the tagline for it. Fucking killer slogan, dude. Right? And then the other one, Cambria. So think Cambrian explosion, but no.
Okay, yeah.
Without the explosion.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. So these are two things that people have been talking about a lot lately as far as potential contenders to bringing back some sort of, market acceptance or the ethos of GameFi back in a sense.
Yeah, and just because there hasn't been anything new specifically doesn't mean it can't work again with the new flavors.
That's what we've been talking about. Yeah, because we're okay, GameFi's back, right? So let's look into this stuff. Where's the newness?
Yeah, what's different?
Yeah,
why is it going to work now but not before?
So the question is, do these new GameFi iterations need some new layer of innovation or some sort of expansion to what existed previously? Kind of like how Pump.Fun
Yeah.
The innovation in a sense was the injection of these bonding curve rails to the production of a meme. So, you create a much more viable and higher velocity market for the product that already existed of a meme coin, right?
Yeah.
These things go back many, many years.
Yeah.
Right?
Memes have been around since like 2013 era.
Yeah, but some developers came around and figured out like a more optimal iteration of them. So it's like, all right, does the GameFi sector need that? A new optimal iteration of gaming?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't.
Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you could just run it all over again.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, so let's take a look at Bitcoin. Here's the landing page. It's bigcoin.tech. And you start out with a bedroom after purchasing it for roughly $7 or so.
Yeah.
And it gives you 4 total spots. It says 28 total gigawatts and free food from mom.
You got to have that, dude.
Yeah, so stats. They are mining 0 Bitcoin. So I guess this is like the current right now. Like, since I don't have one, there's 0 gigahashes.
Yeah.
All right, so then how does this work? All right, so let's look at the white paper.
Looks familiar, doesn't it?
Very familiar. It says BigCoin, a peer-to-peer electronic big cash system. And it's pretty interesting. It's not that many pages. I think 4 pages.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is it does give you supply cap distribution, gives you the math behind it. And one of the more interesting things here is that it's very much like Bitcoin.
Basically the same, right? Just a much more condensed halving schedule.
Yeah, so the reward per block is 2.3 big, and it has every 4.2 million blocks. So this is on abstract chain, and so so there's more blocks than there are in Bitcoin, right? And so at approximately 53 and a half days, assuming a 1.1 second average block time is a halving.
I see.
And so this has been running around for more than a halving, right? At least.
I don't think no.
No,
this
it hasn't halved yet.
It's been like 2 weeks. Maybe not even. I think it's been like 1 week.
Wow.
So I mean, you got like 40 or so days left until the first halving, right? So, do with that information what you will. I mean, maybe this is abstract we're talking about, right? This is the penguin chain, the green chain.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, there's been quite a community rally over the last week around this coin, but like we've talked about in the past, also a inevitable crash in the price, 90% correction. So like it's up in the air whether or not this thing has longevity or not. Maybe the built-in Ponzi-nomics of Bitcoin itself, the tokenomic design of Bitcoin,
happening.
Maybe it'll actually work again in a much like smaller condensed time frame. Who knows?
Yeah. So the supply is 21 million. So it halves every 54 days, give or take. All right, so let's take a look here. Understanding how Bitcoin works. And at a high level, Bitcoin is an on-chain simulation game that mimics Bitcoin. Buy miners, host them in facilities, and passively mine big coins. And so here, we started with a room at mom's house. And then here is more of like a little shed with some miners.
This one seems to be expanding, growing.
Yeah.
So there must be some sort of mechanism to essentially acquire more parcels within your warehouse, right?
Yeah, so here's an example of what you're mining. This is 447 Bitcoin a day that you're mining. It says your hash rate is 122,000 gigahashes, and there's 3.4 million blocks until the next halving.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay, so...
Yeah, so this is a nice little game here, right? It's pretty easy, but it is definitely capital intensive, right? It's just... If you got the money,
you pay money, you pay in Bitcoin to upgrade your area.
Yeah, so it's another game, kind of like Bitcoin in a sense. The people with the money earn the most Bitcoin, and it's to be determined whether or not market forces align, right, for this iteration and the iteration of the past with Bitcoin itself. Because those are like physical hardware requirements, real energy input. In order to sustain this Ponzi delusion, if some would suggest.
Solution to a very big problem, my man.
Whatever,
called
dude.
Fiat money monetary system.
I mean, it's working, right?
Yeah.
It's working to a degree people wouldn't have expected it to work 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
It's true.
So nonetheless, in this version, much more accessible. It's a digital variant of basically the same thing, and again, in a much more condensed time frame. So.
Yeah. So who did a big Bitcoin? Well, none other than Big Toshi did it.
Another one of those, huh?
Yeah. So Bitcoin is like Bitcoin, but for the new generation. To get there, Bitcoin must eventually run on its own by being incredibly neutral, self-sustaining, and decentralized. But before that, the system needs to grow. That means supporting miners and facilities for all types of players while being completely agnostic to Bitcoin's USD value. So getting the numbers right takes iteration while Bitcoin stays true to Bitcoin's ethos with core mechanics locked and contracts immutable. There's still levers to guide the early growth, minor additions, facility upgrades, price adjustments, and others. So, yeah, I mean, this sounds like a lot of the times of what we say is like leveraging Bitcoin in the sense of like DMT and like kind of, but going deeper into the data.
That's interesting. But leveraging Bitcoin in what sense? Just like in its proven, like...
It's like tokenomics. That's how
Yeah.
they're leveraging Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like something that's proven to work, right? It's
Mhm.
Bitcoin's tokenomics. And yeah, mimicking that, I guess, in the digital sense. Like here he's saying new mining tech may emerge. I'm not sure what is the arbiter of like...
I think they just add just new,
a new version, right?
new software, new
Here's a new
hashing
rig,
rigs. Yeah.
and it costs this amount of money, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming people will discard the old ones, right?
Yeah, eventually, I mean, since this is a game, instead of having like these computers, they're more like alien hardware. And now you're getting like 100 times the hash power just because
It's interesting.
it costs 1,000 times more. But
It would be pretty cool to see like some sort of secondary market of like competitive,
yeah,
I don't know, miner designs somehow, where there's like some sort of voting component. It's like
yeah,
which of these-
that would be cool.
yeah, and then so that way there's like a little bit of consensus formation, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't expect that degree of complexity, but I could be wrong. Maybe this is it just like naturally goes into that direction and shocks us all, right? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So how well is Big doing? And so
Yeah,
it
there's
peaked,
that big crash we're talking about.
yeah, peaked at 29 million, went down to roughly 4 million, and it's up like a 2x from its low. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's interesting nonetheless. We talked about Abstract a couple weeks ago, how it was showing signals of traction, you know, new memes emerging, you know, again, don't always have that X factor consideration of Luka, never fade Luka.
Right.
Not the basketball player,
Yeah.
the penguin.
Not Doncic.
Luka, yeah, not him. You shouldn't fade him either, I guess.
No, don't fade him.
Unless you're the Dallas Mavericks, totally faded him. What a mistake, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, don't fade Luka Nets or Luka Nuts, whatever. I forget which one it is. I think it's Luka Nets.
Yeah, it's Nets.
Okay. Yeah, so his chain's doing well, and this is perceivably as like a flagship product, but some people are disgruntled a bit because, you know, it's perceivable as a Ponzi, right? Actually, I think it's like people are marketing as such. This is Abstract's first Ponzi coin.
Yeah.
But then there's people like debating, you know, should the chain itself even be endorsing a Ponzi or whatever, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that either.
I mean, in this day and age of crypto, dude, it's like, you know, it's so hard to like say anything with a straight face these days. You know?
What do you mean? My dad shouldn't buy fart coin? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like try and explain to people like this is actually like
a real industry, guys.
This is a big deal, guys. You know, this could actually be disruptive to finance and disruptive to like I don't know, geopolitics someday, right?
It could, but
and then yeah, it's like, have you heard about fart coin? I really recommend you buy some fart coin. You know, you don't want to be positioned out of that one.
Yeah, it's like you compare it to Doge, you see it's like 50 billion. It's like fart coin is like 10 times that. Dad, come on.
Yeah. How do you not see this, guys? Right? So whatever, dude. I mean, people are much more like honest these days, I guess. That's kind of like what the whole meme ethos is about. It's like,
yeah, it's
let's
true.
stop masquerading what's actually happening here, guys, with like fundamentals and like roadmaps and such.
Right.
It's like, yeah, they're Ponzi's, guys. Get with the program. So basically the expectation is this shit's going to go and crash aggressively at some point. So, you know, as long as we all understand that.
But not today or not tomorrow. So
at some point.
At some point. We just don't know when. And
yeah,
that's
whatever.
it.
It is what it is,
you
right?
can play the game or not. So,
yeah.
All right. So next one, Cambria. So it's been averaging 3,000 active players with over 740,000 spent on item purchases in under 48 hours. So we got another one. So this is more like an MMORPG with some PvP and PvE elements.
Yeah, which also I think originated on Ronin, which you haven't talked about in a while. That's the Axie Infinity chain. But I think now is recently like integrated with Abstract as well. So again, a little bit of like GameFi momentum building on Abstract itself.
Yeah, and so this is a little bit more aligned to like the degen sort of demographic where you can wage in PvP battles. And you stake your assets, and then you could potentially lose all of them.
You know what? That's actually a really cool concept. I've always felt like that would be a good, back in my World of Warcraft days where I was out there slaying fools in the dueling, like,
allegedly
1v1 battles, dude. It's like, come on, let's battle. I always imagined in my head, but I was like a, 13-year-old kid, no money.
Yeah.
It's like, what if I had some money? Like, I would actually like put some up.
I remember in hardcore Diablo mode, you would lose your stuff if you went.
Yeah, I think that's basically what happens here.
Okay.
Like I think, yeah. So it's like you're battling it out, right?
Yeah.
And then if you beat the other guy, take his loot.
Yeah, that's it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the mechanic, and these are digital assets that you own, and if you lose them based off like the gameplay, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty good mechanic to take advantage.
But obviously, like you said, very degenerate, very risky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good kind of degenerate because you have to actually have some conviction in yourself, right? To like, you got to win the battle, right? Yeah. It's not just like some random thing like a meme coin, right?
Yeah, I think risk. It's sort of like basketball has sort of fallen off like in the metrics, like the views.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what keeps it going is that people bet on the games, and therefore people watch because it makes it more entertaining. So this is kind of the same thing, but in the gameplay style.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information here to digest because it's a new game, a whole new ecosystem. But just to boil it down, again, it's pinging people's radars because of the player metrics. There's concurrently thousands of people playing at the same time, which is pretty impressive in the context of a Web3 game.
Yeah, sure.
Days. And again, like $750,000 in revenue within a couple of days. So, here's the docs.
Yeah, so this is their Notion site. Mm-hmm. So there's got a map, easy playmaking here, and just kind of breaks down like how you play the game.
Yeah, so the entry, it's like something you have to purchase called a charter, less than $50 or so, and you're in, essentially. But the main key points here, there's like a 14-day season where if you pay that, essentially the access fee, which is roughly $30 to $50.
Yeah, 56 Ronins, Ron?
Yeah, and which this began like 3 or 4 days ago. So you're a little late, but still not really. There's still ample time to partake and kind of like get a feel for things.
Yeah, it says, why play Cambria? It says, or Season 2, take home USDC rewards in the risk-to-earn MMO that everyone is talking about. Forge your path as a solo player, guild member, guild leader, viceroy, paymaster, or even as a creator.
I like that. I like to see this multifaceted, multi-actor ecosystem because, one of the things I like about this is like you don't have to do the full high-risk endeavors to find your vertical of extraction, right? You could
if you don't want to battle, you could be a creator, in other words.
Yeah, you could be more like a PvE focused, right? Where you're just more so out there aggregating resources, crafting, supplying the market with goods and blah, 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 right? But ultimately, I think the main takeaway here is like you want to have as much silver, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of this like cycle, because that's how they distribute the earnings.
Yeah, so there's something interesting here with this game. It says all ETH or RON spent on the game, with few exceptions, funds the main prize pool. The more people that join the season and actively play, the bigger the prize pool grows. The value inside the pool backs the in-game economy of coins, which can be traded in-game, and is split at the end of the season based mostly in coins held via a cash-out system. So 90% of coins held, minimum 10 plus USDC cash out, 5% is critical bug bounty reports, and the other 5% for content creators and referrals rewards. So basically, anytime you spend money here, 90% gets redistributed back to the economy, right? Players.
So there you go. I like to see that too. It's like the continuation of this idea of redistributing and not like fully extracting value out of the ecosystem. Like, one of the big gripes with the meme coin mania we kind of lived through. It was mostly an extractive mania, right? Where it's like $500 million plus in value was essentially directed to one entity, right? Pumped out fund, and none of it was like redirected to deployers or whatever, right? But we're starting to see that with new models are redirecting fees, secondary market fees to creators. And in this case, redirecting, market
Participants
fees to the actual participants of the game itself.
Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But guess what? Trump is involved in gaming too, dude.
Well, he's about to be.
Yeah, it says Trump's latest crypto venture will be real estate video game. It says President Donald Trump likes Monopoly. In 1989, the real estate mogul released Trump the Game, a twist on the real estate, and his planned real estate game would be the newest addition to the growing list of crypto ventures from Trump and his family. In addition to NFT collections and meme coins, there's decentralized finance venture World Liberty Financial, a stablecoin, and a Bitcoin mining firm in which the president's sons, Eric Trump and Donald Trump, have a large stake. So Trump is covering all sectors in the crypto industry.
Yeah, or whatever, his cabal, right? His
family.
Crew. Whatever, family, friends, whoever is responsible for all this crazy shenanigans, right? So So Trump entering the meme coin market was absolutely the top signal.
That absolutely was.
So, I mean, considering GameFi and gaming has it has to be near the bottom, I would say. Maybe this is a potential catalyst. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, he's talking about digital land here. So there's a lot of digital land on Bitcoin, I hear.
Right. So gaming and metaverse go hand in hand, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what the hell the Trump cabal strategy is here. They just full on max penetration when it comes to Web3. So they want everything, right?
Yeah.
Just see what sticks. And I think that's fair, right? And again, the GameFi sector, a sector like many sectors in crypto, I guess struggling to find its product market fit.
Yep.
And maybe something like this can kind of galvanize enough interest in people to kind of explore a little bit deeper, the GameFi iterations that do exist today, right? And give them a
trial, at least.
Yeah, give them a little tinker, right? Just
Yeah.
give them a poke, see what they're all about.
For sure.
Because the big prospect, I think, that GameFi introduces is servicing a demographic that largely is being underserviced, right? Which is those are the people on Earth who don't have, thousands of dollars to gamble in the meme coin casino.
Yeah, you're referring to the scholarships of Axie Infinity.
Yeah.
That ecosystem there.
Yeah, where they don't have capital.
But they have the time.
They have time, which is an even more precious commodity, right?
That's right.
And these people are seeking opportunity. And before, Web3 used to be a harbor of opportunity.
That's right. It used to be.
Used to be. So the dream is we can get back to those days, right? Somehow, one way or another.
Yeah. And if you're playing a game right now in Web3 and you're having fun, you're making money, definitely let us know in the comment section below which game you're playing. We'd like to know and we'd like to take a look at it. And if you find anything else you want us to talk about, put it in the comment section below as well. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.